Elliot,
Hello.
I have two bits. One,
You have two bits.
there is a YouTube commenter that claimed to unsubscribe the 1 week we did not do the Elliot intro, and then resubscribe.
I'm a little offended. I'm a little offended.
I
thought my intro was great.
I thought it was fine. I had no.
In my defense, Logan said I don't have an intro, and I'd just been playing Multiverses, so I was like, I actually have one. Let's go. I had one prepared this week if you needed it as well.
No, but I've got a couple of things. One, a quick advertisement for ourselves. We started posting shorts on YouTube.
Yeah.
Of little clips of the podcast. And this week we're going to start posting longer clips of the podcast as like a 10-minute-ish segment on Sundays. So if you need something to watch on Sunday and you can't watch the podcast during the week, you can grab one segment on a Sunday with video. And number two, I've been watching the T20 Cricket World Cup, and I have absolutely no clue what's going on.
I don't like cricket.
But I'm enjoying it.
Oh, no. I love it. I really like cricket. You know, my parents actually met playing cricket.
That is... that's surprising, but not.
Yeah. I'm not even very good. My parents still play cricket. I don't. I'm not very good at cricket. Unfortunately, I kind of wish I was, but I don't really like. The ball's really hard. I don't know if you ever felt a cricket ball.
No, I haven't. So I'm watching this as someone who played baseball for like 10 years, right? And I watch baseball still. I go to baseball games. I have baseballs over there. I've got a leather baseball and stuff that's like really nice and blue and stuff. But like, I've done a lot of baseball in my life. There's baseball hats here, right?
You are a baseball cap guy.
I'm a baseball fan, right? And one of the first things I noticed is that they don't use gloves.
Only the wiki,
baseball players are using gloves. And I'm talking with my friend who vaguely knows more of cricket. Now, for context of this, if you're an American, you may know. The U.S. beat Pakistan in the T20 World Cup the other day, and it was considered a major upset. That match happened.
It is a major upset. Pakistan is
a major upset.
Famous cricketing nation.
It happened 10 miles away from my house.
Yeah.
I then had friends that went to the T20 Cricket World Cup yesterday. So my friend group is getting very into cricket this week because it is so close and accessible for us this week.
Cricket's great. I occasionally would make a cricket reference on Twitter, and there'd be like 8 people who I have like 11,000 people who follow me. 8 people would respond because they'd get it. And there was one guy. I think his name was like Tom. I think his name was like Tom Clark or something. And he would just DM me about cricket occasionally. It was great. If you're listening, Tom, let's talk about cricket some more. It's good fun.
But yeah, the first thing I was like, wow, they're not wearing gloves.
Yeah.
And then my friend told me it's like a cue ball from pool that is what they're hitting.
Yeah, it's really it's rock solid.
But how
it's heavy as well.
Hand. Like baseballs at least are like leather and stuff. And I think the speed from a baseball bat is harder than a speed from a cricket bat.
Most of the time,
just because of the swing stance.
Yeah,
and like the way that you swing a baseball bat versus the way you swing a cricket bat. Cricket bats feel a lot more deflecting with power. Whereas baseball bat,
it depends. You should watch Chris Gale bat. Okay. I mean, he's got a fucking tree trunk that he hits the ball with. But he calls himself Universe Boss as well, which is God. Amazing.
All right, but yeah, cricket. Didn't expect to be getting into that this week.
I like cricket, so
I do have one bitch about cricket.
Go on.
Is I was ready to start playing 18
breaks?
No. I was ready to start playing 18 holes of golf this weekend. Well, actually, last weekend. And they're doing the temporary stadium they made is next to my 18-hole golf course.
Right.
And so we can't use it.
Right, okay.
And then my normal 9-hole course is what they're using for practice for the teams.
Right.
So I've had to go to other courses this past week, which is fine, but I wanted to play 18. That's my only qualm, is that it's screwing up my golf Saturdays. All right, let's get into Counter-Strike. There's not a huge amount this week.
There might be a huge amount. We don't know yet.
Yeah, We're gonna start with Blast Spring Premier Finals 32 of the 73 this year. Um, there's a couple different things going on here. So teams at this event, we're gonna talk about them, and then we'll talk about each team individually, or at least some of them, because there's some stuff worth talking about. Teams here: Vitality, FaZe, G2, Spirit, Navi, Astralis, Virtus Pro, and Saw. That would be 7 of the top 10 teams, in addition to Saw, who is still very good.
Yeah, Saw, when they qualified, felt like a top 8 team. Right
Yeah.
now, they're kind of... They've reverted to the mean somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still dangerous, and they still can... Like, even if they're not at the peak they were, they're still pretty good. And they're still a good team. But they are invariably the weakest team at this 8-team event. But there's always going to be one team who's the weakest team, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Group A: FaZe, Saw, Navi, and Astralis. It was 2-0s to start on both sides, so FaZe took down Saw, and Navi took down Astralis. Navi look like they have form again after they kind of felt like they were in a little post-major slump.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, we've not seen that much of them yet, so we're not certain, but they looked a lot better. But you can never tell with Astralis either, because, like, Astralis are so inconsistent. At times they look like one of the best teams in the world, and then at other times they just look like a run-of-the-mill also ran. And I don't know, like, Navi should be better than Astralis, so them winning is like, okay, good. Now what? Almost. Which seems a little bit harsh, but Navi won the fucking major, so expectations change for them.
I agree. And I agree that the Astralis, I just like words weren't going out of my mouth, man, for a second. I think Astralis also has not been getting the performance out of some of its players that it has needed to. But I think we started seeing some of that today, right? In very small sample size, obviously, but Device started looking more like Device of past. Now, I think we all understood when Device decided, hey, I'm going to IGL this team, that it was going to be a learning curve, and that his statistics would probably take a slump. That he wasn't going to be one of the best oppers in the world anymore. But it feels like, at least, that he is bringing a lot of that back, and that it's coming back into his gameplay, which makes sense, right? That it makes sense that over time you get better.
There's also no reason with the way Device AWPs that it should impact him too much when it comes to in-game leading. I also feel like AWPers tend to drop off less on the in-game lead. But maybe
I agree.
That might be nonsense, but like, it feels true.
I feel a lot of the time when you play AWP, you, especially on like a CT side, I'm not talking on a T side, but on a CT side, you generally don't play the same spot every single round. You move yourself around.
Also, you can just point the gun somewhere.
Yeah.
And then direct from there. And you don't really need to move it. Whereas if you're rifling, okay, you can just hold one angle like that, but you tend to be a bit more active, and it's harder to concentrate on headshot level and directing your troops than it is to just scope in and not really matter.
It depends what AWPer you are. Like, Device has historically been this kind of passive AWPer that shows flashes of aggression. Tell me MongolZ IGLs, that does destroy part of the...
MongolZ's a freak, though. He can probably do anything.
Or ZywOo, right? Who is this aggressive AWPer. He's not a passive turret, watch an angle AWPer.
No, he's not. He's more of a late round AWPer, but he's... I think that the sort of aggressive AWPer, like, phenotype doesn't really exist anymore, almost. Like, you can't play like JW anymore. Not least like because he can't on CS2, but also, like, teams know how to counter that now. And so the only real way to play is a bit more passive.
Yep, I agree.
Fine. But yes, no, Device is still good.
FaZe took down Saw in the opener. This is one of those matches that you expect FaZe to kind of destroy Saw. What I have started noticing is we've gotten Rops back a little bit. Rops had this like really high at the beginning of CS2, And then they brought Frozen in, and he dipped a good chunk. He was still a good player, but he wasn't the best player in CS2, right? And we've seen this slow, like, come up on the graph of him starting to become a player that is feared on FaZe. It kind of felt like for a while that everyone else on FaZe was very. Let me phrase this. Everyone on FaZe is very good, but it felt before like everyone on FaZe was pushing a little more into it to compensate that Rops was not doing as good.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, Rops is kind of somebody you expect to. It should be when you're winning that Rops is just like a 1.1 player. Like he almost shouldn't be doing that much when you're winning. Like that's not fair, but like if you're winning easily, you kind of don't need Rops because Rops is a fail-safe player. He's going to take his space and he's going to do it with minimal effort. He's going to do it with minimal, like, needless deaths as well. But he's also not going to run in first. He's not going to. He plays his spots very differently to how Nico plays his spots. Let's put it that way. Like he is very passive, but he's very efficient. Whereas when you're winning comfortably, you don't really need Rops all that much. No. It's when the games are close that you look at Rops and he's got 35 kills and you win off that. That's what you want from Rops.
He's your insurance.
But as you mentioned, as of late, he hasn't been there in the closer games either. So there's definitely been a fall off.
Yeah. But I think it feels like he's coming back a little bit on that.
Yeah, agreed.
FaZe play Na'Vi at 9:30 in the morning Eastern when this podcast comes out. So that would be like 9 hours after this podcast comes out, or 6 hours.
2:30 here, 3:30 in Europe.
Yeah, sure. I think this podcast comes out 3 hours later now because Pacific time.
Okay.
Okay. Group B is the group that we're going to have a little bit more to talk about in terms of teams. Vitality is currently playing Virtus Pro. Spirit will play G2 in about 2 hours from now. I want to talk about these teams as more of a long-term bit because I think each of these teams is kind of at a crossroads a little bit, and I want to talk about where do we see them overall, because realistically, let's be very clear here, last Premier Spring Finals, all it means is the top winner goes to the other finals, but it's for the year or something. This tournament it's one of 700 Blast tournaments. I care less and less, but there is an arena, so I guess that's what it is. Vitality. So long-term Vitality right now. They are a very good team. They continue to be a very good team.
Yep.
But it feels like we never talk about Vitality being able to win events. It feels like there's been this drought for a while of like, oh yeah, Vitality is really good. And they go into an event and they perform well. And then they kind of disappear and we kind of just go, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I guess X team is going to beat them or something. But when do we get to the point of Vitality should just win events?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you're pretty much spot on. Like, Vitality were a team who could win events. They had a couple changes, and now they just don't seem to. Their big problem, in my eyes, is that Apex isn't actually good enough at the game to do the things he's trying to do. Like, Mezzy and Flame shouldn't be, like, being sacrificed to keep Apex alive, which seems to happen far too often. The amount of times I see Mezzy jump through a smoke with a pistol so that somebody else can rifle, I'm like, have you watched Mezzy play? Like, that guy should not be. He shouldn't be doing anything except fragging the fuck out because he's unbelievably good at this game. Like, look at that ace and tell me he should be doing anything other than fragging.
What I find interesting is when Mezzy got onto this team, when we talked and said, hey, Magisk is leaving this team and going to Falcons, who are the players that can replace Magisk? Because what Magisk does is not a standard 1 of 5 person role that you see on a team. He does a lot of stuff and he does a lot of it really, really well.
He's a glue player.
And we said that Twists is one of the players. And we said we could see Mezzy grow into it. It doesn't seem like Mezzy has at all.
But I don't think they're using him as Magisk. They're using him as, like, Dupree. Like, the Flames has all the good roles. like Flames and ZywOo have all the good roles. Well, I suppose they put Flames in the sort of more star anchorish roles, like Anubis A, for example. Like, Messi gets left as like the guy who runs through smokes, the guy who gets what's left. It's like, what? Watch Messi play. He's unbelievable at this game. Why is he being like bottlenecked into this role? It's so infuriating because he's really fucking good. He shouldn't be like. And you watch Apex play, and he's clearly just worse at the game.
I don't. The problem is I don't. Is your answer not yours? Sorry, is the answer right? Remove Apex and bring in another IGL.
No, it's humble Apex. That's the answer.
But we have talked on this topic for a while of like what happens when you remove your fifth best player and you switch it for another fifth best player. You don't become better.
Usually,
right?
yeah.
And who would, if you were, you say humble Apex, if you remove Apex and you put in another IGL, who do you even put in? And B, does switching your fifth best player actually help you here? I mean, it just doesn't feel like
switching it so that Messi is in roles where he can do something, and Apex is in roles where he can't do as much damage to his own team is just a net benefit. And maybe it's not the difference between them winning events and them coming 8th, like they seem to be doing all the time, but it's probably the difference between them coming 8th and then coming 2nd.
Yeah.
And sometimes 2nd to 1st. The margins are so small. You don't want Apex in these positions. It infuriates me to no end to watch Apex be in better positions than Meza. And I'm sure he's going to come out and be like, oh, I disagree that that's the case. It fucking is. I don't care.
Let me be clear here. It's not that I expect Vitality to win every single event. I don't think that in my head that there is a chance that in today's version of Counter-Strike that we see the same way Prime Astralis won every event for a while, or that Grand Slam Liquid won 6-7 events in a row or whatever it was, right? I don't think that we see that again today. I think there are too many teams that are too close and too good to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like Vitality hasn't won shit since the major.
Because
I don't know if that's true or not. Like, I'm going to be very honest. I don't know if they have or not. But the problem is it doesn't matter if they have it or if they haven't. It feels like they haven't won anything.
I mean, it kind of does matter, but I don't think they have won anything. So I think you're fine.
It feels like they were in this, like... There's this whole discussion of, like, you did it, but it doesn't actually feel like they did it. Like, they won...
They won Blast Premier World Final, yeah.
Yeah.
Fallen World Final.
That was 6 months ago.
Yeah, they haven't won anything for 6 months. Which, I mean, fine. Like, it does happen. It does happen to very good teams, but if ZywOo is as good as people say he is, he shouldn't be not winning events for 6 months.
Yep, I agree.
The same was also true of Simple for what it's worth, and I think maybe in retrospect we were probably a bit too nice to Simple.
All right, the other team, the team facing Vitality right now is Virtus.pro, who have a very different long-term outlook because we've seen the floor of this team. They went and added Electronic. They just switched their coach. But
I don't know things they're completely changing their style as well, which is a shame.
I don't know if any of this helps them become a better team.
I think the only thing that made Virtus.pro capable of being one of the best teams in the world was their unique style. And I think if they are compromising that to bring in Electronic, it's doomed to fail. Because I just don't... What's the point in being another version of the same everyone else? The whole thing that made Virtus.pro difficult to play against, gave them this high ceiling. Let's not forget, one outsider as a fucking major was their unique style. And look, maybe it's not always consistent. Maybe it has flaws. But from the sounds of things, they're trying to go in a bit more of a chaotic route. And I just don't see that suiting their players. These players have spent years playing this style. At the very least, it's going to be an adjustment period.
It's one of those things. God, what is it? there's some sort of NBA comparison here of like a coach that wants to play this one very specific style, and he is brought in to play that one specific style. And the second you do that, is all the players are going to become worse for a little bit. To
Yeah,
play
Tony
that one specific
Pulis.
style.
Tony
Yeah.
Pulis is the
Is the
football example.
equivalent?
Yeah, you bring in Tony Pulis when things are going wrong and you need to stay up, and he plays the most disgusting defensive brand of football you've ever seen, but he gets results and he keeps you up.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's basically made a career out of taking teams who are going down, keeping them up, pocketing the bonus. That's what you bring him in for.
So I don't know what the future of Virtus Pro holds. And the problem is I can pinpoint this is the problem with Vitality, or this is like what Armchair GM us would do. But I don't have an answer for Virtus Pro.
No, nor me. I don't either. I don't know what the answer is. I think James is a genius. I think Fame is excellent. I think Flit is an excellent player. I think actually on CS2 especially, Norbert has been excellent. I kind of don't think Electronic is that good anymore, but that might be insane. I just think like they seem to have given up on what made them dangerous too quickly. We'll see how it pans out. I don't expect much of Virtus Pro now. Maybe in a few months we'll see them be better. But like Electronic's starting to become a bit of I've started using the term harbinger. And when I say harbinger, I mean a player who, when he's on a team, you're like, oh, this team's not going anywhere. Valde was a good example of a harbinger for a while. Every time you saw Valde on a team, you're like, this team's not going to win anything. He might look like a good player, but this team's not going to win anything. And it's there's a few of them, but like Electronic now, post Boomich Na'Vi was a bit of a disaster. Cloud9 with him on it was a disaster. If this team also doesn't work with him on it, we have to start asking some difficult questions about Electronic, I think.
I'm not ready to ask those questions yet, but
I'm not.
You're right.
But like, it's worth thinking about. Like, when somebody is consistently at the scene of the crime, he becomes the prime suspect.
Yeah, no, you're right. All right, so Spirit.
Yes,
they kind of fall into the Vitality, quote unquote, problem. And their long-term success is a much more optimistic thing than either of the other three teams here.
Yes.
Right? Because we look at Vitality and go, why haven't you won anything since December last year? Why do we not talk about you in the same sphere at this point as MalbsMd, as FaZe, as Spirit? And for Spirit, it seems that our long-term perspective is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're not winning now. Chopper came out with an interview this week that was something along the lines of like, yeah, we're really fucking young. Give us 5 minutes.
Yeah, they are so like that's the thing that people forget about Team Spirit is how young they are. Like when you look at Falcons and they're not winning, or Vitality and they're not winning, you go, this is an issue because you don't have that long. Okay, Zowu's pretty young, but like, you know, Apex is on the wrong side of the wrong side of 25, I suppose. But Mezzi's not that young either. Like Spinks is 23, Flames 20, whatever. But like Spirit is so young. Like Magix is like 19.
So here's the thing, right?
And he's like a veteran on this team.
The average player age of all of the players on Spirit is 21 and a half, okay?
Yeah, and Chopper's 26.
Chopper's 27. You remove the Chopper outlier, and the average age is like 19.
Dude, they're 17. They're children.
Dontic is 18. Shiro's 22. Magisk is...
Magix is really young.
He's 21. Right? You have
really
all
young.
of these players, they're really young, and then Chopper brings the average age
Yeah.
up. But Chopper is the veteran. Magix is the veteran, right? And realistically,
exactly.
at the end of the day, Shiro's not the veteran. Zontix
not on this team, but he's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shiro, Zontix, and Donk are early enough in their career that it is really, let's figure this shit out. And
Donk was a preteen during COVID. He's that young.
Well, and like, I know that someone is probably going to say, Shiro was on Gambit. Doesn't matter. I'm
also
pretend,
during COVID.
Here's the thing. I was say I'm just pretending your career, if you started during COVID, didn't start till after COVID.
But also, when Shiro was winning events for Gambit during COVID, Donk was 12.
Yeah.
He was 12. Think about how insane. He was 12 years old when Shiro was winning. This isn't like when Forest was winning or when Apex was winning. He was 12 when Shiro was winning. Shiro is 21 years old.
22.
22. That was 4 years ago. He was.
Yeah.
They are children. Of course, they're not winning yet. Like, we gave Mouse like a year and a half, and even then, like, they needed to add Sui back to start winning, and it's still, there was a little bit of a gestation period where Torzi was still growing. Donk is 16, bro. Like, they've so long to figure this out. They don't need to win yet.
I think the interesting thing is that like us looking at Spirit versus us looking at Mouse is that Spirit won right out of the gate. They won, what was it, Kato early this year? Mm-hmm. They won right out of the fucking gate. And I think a lot of people had really high expectations. Spirit then smashed the high expectations, and the bar was just left up there. Mm-hmm. And I think the problem is not that the bar shouldn't be up there, because Spirit is a really fucking good team, and I think they could win on basically every day. But you also have to remember that the bar shouldn't be all the way at the top for Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
If we compare it to the Mao's bar that we had set, the answer is, if you're getting into playoffs every single event, you're doing a great fucking job right now.
Yeah, like, Spirit will get so much experience on stage because they will make most stages. Eventually it's going to click. Like, this just happens. Shiro at first wasn't good on stage. He will get there. He's still not brilliant on stage, but he has his moments. Like, Zywoo, they still have questions about him on stage, but you forget Zywoo's only like 22. Like, he's still a child. Like, he's still very, very young. Like, how old are you, Logan?
I'm 23.
You're 23. If you were on a stage tomorrow doing anything, even like the thing that you're best at, would you be shitting yourself?
Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, if I had to go stand on a stage and just talk, I could do that. But anything else,
you could? Okay.
I absolutely could.
Yeah, you're a very accomplished.
The talking to a camera thing helped out a lot, and
I suppose that's true.
Hosting, like teaching students in an amphitheater, helped out a lot. That doesn't scare me.
Bad example, but like,
but anything else, if you told me I had to go on a stage and play a game of Counter-Strike and not shit the bed, oh my god, man, I'd be fucked.
Yeah, he's a year younger than you. He's younger than you. Like of course, Donk is going to have nerves on stage. Of course, Shiro is going to have nerves. Like, they're fucking young, dude. Like, it's fine. They've got so much time. And I do think there is something to, like, really young. I actually think Donk's first event, he didn't choke at all because he was almost too young to feel pressure. I do think there's something in that. Like, when you're that young and you've always been the best player in the server, you actually just don't feel any pressure because you're actually too young to grasp the enormity of what's going on. But Donk seems to have almost hit that point where he's lost on stage now, and it's like, oh, I'm mortal. Like, I'm not always the best player in the server. I actually have to humble myself, and that's maybe he's now hit the point where nerves start hitting. But dude, they've got so much time. If Spirit don't win everything next year, it's still okay. Mouse didn't win for ages, and now look at them. They're also not winning on stage. That's not the point.
That's an unrelated matter. All right, let's talk about the fifth team in this group. I want to talk about G2 in terms of the here and now.
Okay.
First of all, they're playing with Taz today.
Yeah.
Which I think gives zero remnants to, and zero anything to the long term, but I think it's just fun. I want to see Taz.
It is. It's always good to see Taz on the server, I think.
Yeah. Like, I don't think
even though he looks... Like, when he wears sunglasses, he looks a lot like Andrew Tate. Just think that's worth putting out there.
He's not as built as Andrew Tate is.
He's not as cool.
I'm
joking.
Not that I want to encourage the said behavior, but Taz is also a little bit of a...
Taz is pretty... No, Taz is terrifying, dude. You see him in person, we could knock you out.
I've got a whole
big
ocean.
Guy.
I'm clear.
Big guy.
I'm sorry, Taz. But But G2 right now, right? They don't have MongolZ. We went to Dallas. They didn't have Hooksy. And pre that, and they won Dallas. Let's be very clear here. They did win Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
It also feels like we've had this conversation for a while of what are G2.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, doesn't help that MongolZ's not here either, because that's usually their one saving grace, but I don't know. Well, I mean, what is there to say about G2? They're not the best team in the world, but they always have the chance to win because their peak is so good. Yeah. No matter what, this team has, well, I guess not no matter what. This team has Nico, MongolZ, Hunter, but that's actually not true. Visa issues aside, this team always has Hunter, MongolZ, and Nico. If two of those show up in any game, you can win it.
You're going to need both Hunter and Nico to show up today because they don't have MongolZ.
They are gonna struggle without MongolZ because MongolZ is almost certainly the best player in the world. I used to think it was quite close. I don't think it's close anymore.
I don't think
he's just definitely the best player in the
world. It's
MongolZ,
then it's Donk, and then there's a really fucking big gap.
I think Donk and ZywOo are probably quite close. And I also don't think the gap between ZywOo and then whoever you want to put fourth is that big either. I legitimately think there's a chance Torsey's the fourth or fifth best player in the world.
This is a bold
He's
statement.
really good. Frozen's also ridiculously good. There's a lot of I don't think it felt on CS:GO that the gap between ZywOo and everyone else was bigger. I don't think the gap between ZywOo and the best player on FaZe or Mouse is that big anymore.
Yeah,
I think that's partially why Vitality don't win anymore. But yes, yeah, G2 are going to struggle at this event if MongolZ isn't there. I think there's a rumor he's only going to miss the first game.
It is confirmed.
It's confirmed. Okay. Didn't see it confirmed, but yeah, they're going to struggle today. Once MongolZ comes back, they'll probably be fine. Next event, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, so this is if you hear this, if this makes it to someone's ears,
you'll know why I was grinning when I said.
Yeah, you'll know
next
why
event.
I was
You'll
grinning.
know.
We've been told that MalbsMd will be signing with G2.
Yeah, so supposedly there should be a rumor coming out tonight as we record this that G2 are signing MalbsMd. I think to replace Hooksy. I've not had that confirmed, but the rumor is that either Nico or Nexa is in-game leading, presumably Nico. Look, I love this move. I genuinely love this move. Just double down on firepower. Who fucking cares?
I love this move as well.
Go on.
Well, okay, so there's two sides to this move. There's the G2 side and then there's the MalbsMd side, right? For MalbsMd, this is literally the best thing you could fucking do.
MalbsMd's getting a bag.
If you're MalbsMd here, not only are you getting a bag, right? G2 right now is the fourth best team in the world. They're invited to every single event. You get to compete against the best players in the world in every event. Like right now in this event, he would play against Donk. He then has the possibility of playing against ZywOo or whatever Virtus Pro is today, right? That's excellent.
Yeah,
your status of play goes up a huge amount, and we saw at Pro League that he can do it.
Oh, he can
right.
Play.
That he can do it. Right.
Look, there are very few players who can actually play like Nico. MalbsMd might not be as good as Nico, but he certainly plays like Nico. And if Nico is going to move into a more, army general role, and he wants a player like himself, there aren't many better at playing like Nico than MalbsMd. He's so good. Like Shakespeare could write sonnets about his first bullet aim, bro. He's so good at the game. So good.
I think for G2 this makes sense, but I have some qualms and questions.
I've got none. I love it.
We have constantly talked about how upgrading your fifth best player doesn't help. ... Unless you upgrade them with MalbsMd.
Well, unless you upgrade them with
not your fifth best player.
Yeah, so it's when you swap if you swapped a Hooksy for Sticko, I don't think this team.
No,
and that's no disrespect to either of those players, but
we have
you put Sticko on this team, you put him in Hooksy's roles. It's yeah, he might be a bit better at the game, or he whatever. But like, was that really why you weren't winning? When it's HooXi for MalbsMd, that's like a massive gap in mechanics. This team's probably not going to be like. I don't think they're going to outthink anyone, but I don't think they fucking need to. Like,
so
that's why. Like, so G2 have always been a team with a really high ceiling and a really low floor. But when they hit that ceiling, they can win events. This team's ceiling is absolutely insane. They will not be. I don't think at any point in time will this team be the HLTV #1, but it will win at least 1 or 2 events a year.
So I'm looking at this and thinking about it, right? Nexa and HooXi, at least previously, have felt integral to the team because they played the shit spots. And someone needs to. On every team. If you put a team together of ZywOo, Nico, Hunter, Donk, and Simple, right? Let's say that you put that team together, someone had enough money. Someone has to play the shit spots.
It would be Hunter. Hunter would get shafted in that team.
Okay, but you see my point. Someone has to play shit spots. So you're taking away HooXi, who plays kind of shit spots, and who also hard entries, and replacing with Malbs. So the question is are you going to replace 1-to-1 on roles? And the answer I would hope with is no. I'd hope Nico
they
takes
might
some...
do.
Well, but the problem is then we get into a situation like Mezzy on Vitality.
Yeah.
Where Mezzy
it would be a waste, but like he's also such a big like yes, you probably don't get 1.3 production out of Malbs, but you get 1.1 production or 1.05 where HooXi was a 0.9. Do you know what I mean? Like that is a significant upgrade in theory. And they also might give him like they might let him be a bit more like Nico, and Nico becomes a bit more passive. We'll see. They might make Nexa hard entry. Make Nexa HooXi, make Nico Nexa, and make Malbs Nico. That'd be insane, but they could do that.
I think this move is good for both parties if executed correctly.
It could be really fun.
I think it's good for Malbs regardless. I think like the worst thing that's going to happen for Malbs is he gets on this team, he doesn't look like Malbs, but then anyone can just go, look, either A, Nico ruined him, or B, he's playing for this fucking cursed team anyway.
That's why I like this move so much.
Like, there's no downside.
Yeah, no matter what, I can either blame Nico for Malbs being bad, or say Malbs fixed Nico. And either way, I'm happy. It's good for my agendas regardless.
All right. Let's get... I'm going to start that again. I'm going to... let's get into... There's a couple of different random stuff that's happened in the last couple of weeks I want to talk about in the last week. MalbsMd have completed signing Brollan to the team as a actual standard player. I think that's...
I kind of thought it already happened, to be honest.
No, he was still on loan from NIP, but I think it is a good thing for that to have happened.
I kind of just didn't... just hadn't realised.
Like, that's a win. I don't have much more to say about it because we've seen 6 months of Malbs Brollan. They won the first event Brollan was in. They've looked good. They still have a playoff issue, but that is an overtime thing. It's not going to be fixed by switching out one player.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Brollan's really the issue as such. I don't think he's brilliant on stage, but I don't think any of them are. So, whatever.
Correct. There's a new team from Europe called Revenant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this. Okay.
I have.
It started 5 days ago. It is all over the place. It is NBK, Laux, Adex, Ryko, and Nivera.
I like Laux, but he's a Harbinger, unfortunately. I think he's a good player, but every team he's on seems to be doomed. This team's doomed. I'm
curious to see Nivera back in Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
After years of playing, 3 years of playing Valorant, coming back to Counter-Strike, I'm wondering what the switch will be like in that way, because we had players that went to Valorant and came back to Counter-Strike, especially in NA, and we saw that there was a little bit of a difference to start, and then they kind of got their boat shoes back. But Nivera was integrated on a team, playing at tier 1 level for 3 years, right? He played on TL and then by KC.
In Vitality, on Valorant. Sorry, okay, that makes sense.
Sorry.
Okay.
He played on.
So he wasn't
Team
on.
Liquid.
He wasn't on Vitality for
No.
3 years. That makes sense.
No, he played on Team Liquid, and then I think it was Carmine Corp. In Valorant, he was like very much ingratiated in the EMEA Valorant scene. So I'm wondering how much of a jump is it going to be back to this.
Navarro was always very good. I think the problem with him was a personal one. I don't think he was particularly. I don't think he particularly got on with the other players on Vitality. 3 years in another game might have sort of smoothed those edges, as it were. Good player, though.
We got 2 more things to talk about. One, we'll talk about YaLLa Compass for a minute, which was an event that we had talked about before.
Shout out the
right?
Mongols.
Mongols taking a win at what I'm going to deem the first A-tier event Asia has won in a very long time.
It's not an S-tier event.
It's not an
Somebody
S-tier
said to me, it's an S-tier event.
It's not.
There's none of the top 5 teams are there. It can't be an S-tier event. There's no S-tier teams.
No, there's 2 reasons why it's not, right? Okay. I understand Astralis, Heroic, Complexity are there, but it's literally 3 of the bottom 4 top 10 teams.
Yeah.
Additionally, they beat NIP in the finals, so that automatically brings it down to A-tier for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not unfair. It's really not unfair.
I get NIP were like kind of okay during this event, but like I don't.
Yeah,
care.
but exactly.
I don't.
That's
care.
why it can't be S tier.
It can't be S tier because NIP.
I mean, to be fair, like Wrinkle, I had actually just forgotten Wrinkle was on NIP. I kept seeing people talk about Wrinkle. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, he's on NIP. That's why people keep talking about. Very, very good. The games I watched, he was taking over.
My problem is he is very, very good, but we said the same thing about Head Trick at the beginning of Head Trick on NIP.
I think I was less high on Head Trick than I am on Wrinkle.
The higher you are, the harder you fall.
Yeah, I believe Snoop Dogg said that.
I don't know.
It was a joke.
Again, NIP got to the finals by beating FURIA with Kai. So I have no faith in this.
Who has been?
Yeah, that was my next bit. Yeah. That was my next bit here. Is that FURIA have removed Kai, which is good because he never should have been on this team to begin with.
Yeah, the poor guy's reputation and brain has been wrecked for no reason.
From what I had seen, I think that the rumored replacement is Phelps.
Yeah, fun, a lot of fun.
I'm so in. You took
the team won't work, but it's fun.
No, they've taken 2 of the best bits of FURIA when FURIA was good.
Yeah,
and they took 2 bits from Luminosity SK Gaming when they were good.
Yeah,
and added Cello, who's just been around for forever and is good.
Yeah, yeah. I like Cello. I really liked Cello before. CS2, he's not been good. He's been pretty garbage recently. Do you know who fixes this team instead of Cello? No. Bring back Bolts. Bolts is like the Brazilian Magisk.
No, we had talked about this.
He's the closest thing Brazil has ever made to Magisk.
I agree. We had talked about this, but like Stewie,
yeah, fine. But Bolts
would be an actually good thing, right? And that would make sense on a lot of things.
I really think there's very few Brazilian teams that aren't improved by a Prime Bolts. I don't think there's any Brazilian team in history that isn't just better with Prime Bolts on it.
The problem is Bolts is playing for Oplano right now. Do you know the current Oplano roster?
As a rule, no.
Okay. It's Taco, Bolts,
Fine.
Fur,
Fine.
FNX,
Fine.
KNG.
What a team. What a team. That is prime qualify for the major territory. What a team. I love it. You know what? I really respect how nostalgic Brazilians are. Like, I really like it. Because it just wouldn't... like. Okay, the French teams sometimes do it. They're like, oh yeah, MVK and Smiths are going to play again. Like, nobody fucking cares. Like, can you imagine if like Poland, like Taz and Neo just decided, you know what, one last run. We're going to quit our coaching jobs. We're going to do it again. Taco should have been coaching 4 years ago. He shouldn't still be playing, but I love that he is. FNX did retire 4 years ago.
This team has played 6 matches this year.
Won them all. In my heart.
They won one of
In my heart, they've won them all. What a team.
They have not been, like, I don't even know if they still exist. It says they do. Okay. One more team that is official. Guild Eagles had released their roster last week or the week before. We had talked about it at the time. We said it would be interesting to see, would they split up? Would they stay together? The answer is split up. Into the Breach has signed their IGL Sinnopsyy. That adds with Smuya as the 2 players on the roster. This team is going to suck. I don't
think he'll be the last former Guild Eagles player to join that team.
No.
I'm pretty sure One Flatro is going.
I had also heard rumors of Boros.
That was a rumor at one point, yeah. I don't think they decided. So, from what I'd heard, they were signing One Flatro and Regon. That might have changed. Because I hadn't heard Sinnopsyy. I mean, the team's doomed anyway because it's got Smuya on it. But again, a harbinger. But yeah, this team's not going to be good. Like it's just not. If you're going to sign a player from the Bad News Eagles core, why would you sign the IGL? The one thing they didn't have was strategy.
They really like the lack of strategy, I guess.
Yeah, it's like oh, we really need somebody to drive this ship. It's the guy who drove the Titanic on board. Like, where is he? We need him. Like, what are you talking about? The team had no sense of direction. They just fragged out. Like, sign the players who killed people, not the guy who told them to do it. They had no. Like, they brought in a coach who basically just went, "Yeah, no, this is impossible." Like they just don't listen. It's like herding cats.
So dumb.
It's so insane. Why are you signing the IGL? He's the one player who's a problem. Oh God.
I don't know. I have no. I don't know. I think that's it for us this week. We did.
And this is our Challenger Zhengping coming up.
Yep.
That's this weekend.
I think that's
Complexity and MongolZ are there. Like MongolZ, let's have back-to-back wins, shall we, boys?
I think there's only. Oh, can we? Hold on, I need to talk about something else. We have famously made a jersey tier list of good jerseys and bad jerseys. Mm-hmm. Okay, can we talk about the new Vitality jersey?
I like it.
The French colors.
Well, I don't like the French, but I like the French colors. Yeah, I think it's cool. I didn't like their yellow shirts.
I have a problem with it. I saw this online and I agreed with it. Okay, every team in esports is making a black fucking jersey. Okay, every team in esports, it's a black jersey with a little bit of color on it, right? Vitality for the longest time have had this yellow jersey, and it really set them apart of like the yellow of it all, right? I didn't particularly like the yellow.
No,
I thought it was
exactly.
a lot, but it was a very standout jersey. Okay, I think this French jersey looks like half the other team jerseys.
Yeah, because the other jerseys were better.
Yeah, but there's some amount of like, if something being good and something being noticeable don't have to be the same.
No, but
I think the Vitality yellow was really like iconic for them, and this jersey just isn't yellow.
So the only problem I have with it is they're not a French team.
They really are not.
Like, they're just not a French team. There is this, well, obviously the coach is French, but they're as Israeli as they are French. Obviously, you wouldn't have the Israel flag on there for geopolitical reasons. But I would say you shouldn't have the French flag on there for geopolitical reasons as well, being that I don't like the French.
It doesn't feel right. I don't know.
I know what you're saying, but like,
I get.
I'm not particularly tied to the Vitality colors that it bothers me.
I don't know. The yellow made them stand out a little bit, even if I didn't like the yellow. All right, that's going to be it for us this week. You can find us on Twitter at LoganRama, at AZHeskin, at ReadTLDR. You can find us on YouTube at ReadTLDR, which you probably know because you're either watching us on YouTube or on Spotify, but there are shorts on YouTube now, so that's cool. We'll be back next week. See y'all.